I'm joined at this moment by Dr. Amit Mitra. Dr. Amit Mitra, remember, was one of those architects in a way of this GST system, former finance minister, now financial advisor to Mamata Banerjee, West Bengal chief minister. Dr. Mitra, is the GST regime in a way under strain that all the states want excess revenues out of the GST regime and therefore they are not objecting to these hikes? Because hikes mean more revenues, and because states are struggling with their revenues, it's not just the center, but state governments are also accepting these hikes, and the GST regime itself has come under strain as a result.
Rajivji, let me give you a few points. First of all, it is important for your viewers to understand that the center has decided to stop compensating the states. I had written a formal letter to the Union Finance Minister, which I think your channel and others also carried, where I clearly said to the Union Finance Minister that as chairman of the Empowered Committee of Finance Ministers, when GST was created, when Mr. Arun Jaitley was the Union Finance Minister, we took a 5-year period. In the 5-year period, there was no question of a COVID, a global pandemic, which cost us 3 years. So the question is, we must increase the period of compensation for another 3 years at least. Now, just to give you an idea, we have 9 more months to go in this financial year. No compensation to the states, which means over 1.5 lakh crores, 1.5 lakh crores will be required by the states for compensation. Without, where are they going to raise this money from? Now, you're saying that these rates can be raised. There is a group of ministers, GOM, chaired by the Chief Minister of Karnataka, who's a BJP Chief Minister. Now, they have not been able to come to a consensus. Why? Not a decision even. Why? Because they know that the minute these rates are going up, where the Modi government has failed in the inflationary area, immediately it will trigger inflation. You increase GST, all prices will go up. So this is one point. The second why
were ministers, including Bengal's ministers, silent? Why did they not raise their voice?
They were not silent. They were not silent. Our position was absolutely clear that this is not the time, from the macroeconomic perspective of any economist you ask, when inflation is raging, unemployment raging, rupee has hit the worst condition of 80 rupees a dollar. Foreign institutional investors are pulling out of the country. In this environment of almost chaotic condition, do you want to trigger a rise in GST rates, which will then result in absolutely accelerating process, adding to the inflation vis-a-vis oil and everything else?
So what's the solution? So what's the solution? What's the solution?
This was an inoptimal macroeconomic time when country is going through a crisis.
Right.
Why have foreign investors run away? The largest running away in recent times. Mr. Modi must know that. He's going all over the world propagating for India and hugging leaders and so on and so forth with good intention. What is the fact? Fact is, foreign institutional investors are pulling out of India at a massive rate. So rupee is now at a state. Mr. Modi himself had criticized the last government on the question of rupee going up by a little bit, 53 rupees a dollar.
So
today it is 80 rupees a dollar.
So can I just sum
we have a crisis. My submission to you,
yes, go ahead.
Rajdeep is this the time that you start tinkering with GST rate when your compensation period needs to be increased first? So state finances are ruined. No state in the country will reach anywhere close to the protected revenue, which was a guarantee given when the GST was introduced. In fact, today GST has become a major, it's got stuck in the throat of the nation, because it has the compensation to states undermining federalism completely is not been extended by at least 3 years when there was no pandemic. I was the chair of the committee. meeting held in Kolkata. Arun Jaitley was upstairs, he came down and we all had a consensus. There was no pandemic in view. There was no 3 years lost. So what stops the government? By the way, they were not giving us money. They were borrowing from the Reserve Bank and back to back transferring the debt to the states, which means state was bearing the burden. Why can't you continue the back to back borrowing of the compensated amount? There is no argument in favor against that. My question is, understand the macro picture. The economy is in a state of complete tailspin, with rupee reaching 80, inflation going up, and ruin of the informal and unorganized sector, are very difficult times for small and medium enterprises, and not being able to compensate the states for the protected revenue guaranteed when the GST was introduced. What is GST?
I'm going to leave it there. Dr. Mitra, you've in a sense expressed the anger and the anguish that state governments have, especially opposition-ruled governments which are claiming they're not being compensated enough. And you are claiming significantly tonight that many of the state finance ministers had objected to the hikes at a time where inflation is high. This is not the time.
Including the BJP states have privately told me, because they're all my friends in the GST Council.
Right.
They all are telling us, please fight for compensation.
Okay.
Otherwise our financial condition will collapse, just as any other states.
They
cannot say it publicly because of the nature of the regime you have. But they're privately telling us, please fight for us.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there, Dr. Mitra. I appreciate your joining us because you've given us some perspective in a way of someone who's an insider into this regime. Thank you very much.